Welcome to What the Health? Where anything health is fair game as we tackle the trends and bust the myths about health and wellness. Here are your hosts, Dr. Dan and Angela Toro.
And welcome to another episode of What the Health. I am Dr. Dan here with my co-host,
Angela. Welcome back, guys. I'll get out of the way right now. Our little disclaimer, as you guys know at this point, we are here for informational purposes only, in no way offering individualized medical advice. Always talk to your trusted healthcare provider. Although today I feel pretty confident in our recommendation and what we're talking about, which is...
why does mom keep telling you to go outside?
Yes. We've been hearing it. We've been hearing it since we were kids, and now saying it to our kids and get outside, get outside. And why is that so important? And no, it's not just because mom is going crazy and needs you out of the house, although that's...
sanity. Yeah, that is probably the number one reason.
That is certainly part of it. But no, there's really something to, we hear all the time, the great outdoors, and there truly is something to the greatness of the outdoors and all the amazing benefits that it has for your health. And as we finally seem to be heading into nicer weather here, seemed like the perfect time to talk about the reminders of all those benefits of why it's so good to get out.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I actually had a speaker. I was in at a continuing education seminar one time, and he straight up asked, he's like, when do you feel, he asked his audience, when do you feel most at peace? And as we went around the room, almost every answer happened to be around something to do with the outdoors. So if you think about it, like gardening or hiking or biking or, it really, and again, not like high levels of physical activity, not like the weight room banging stuff around, but like it was stuff that was just, you were connected with nature, in a way that, you don't get inside, especially in today's day and age where you're sitting in front of a screen all the time.
Even just sitting outside having your cup of coffee in the morning, as opposed to, chugging it in the car when you're running around, just having that opportunity. That's one of my favorite things with vacation is just if you have a balcony or some kind of outdoor space where you can take that, have that cup of, our girls' weekend a couple weeks ago when I was with your wife.
That's not mine. That's not mine.
No, he wasn't invited. He was with the kids. The one morning was absolutely beautiful, and so we just sat out on the deck and had our coffee and tea out there, and it was just nice to feel the sun on your face and just nice, very relaxing morning.
Yeah, you hear and again the sound too, not just what you're stepping away from, because again, if you're inside a house and if you're like me and you've got three young kids and they're constantly screaming or yelling at each other, or you've got multiple devices on, one of them's doing homework, one of them's watching TV, one of them's watching their Kindle, and it's like or they're just playing with something else. It's just so much noise.
Yeah, everything has batteries now. Everything.
Just think like the Grinch, all the noise, and just stepping out on my back porch, and this time of year you got all the birds. There's we've like 3 nests.
Yeah, you guys have a little bird.
And the birds, the little ones just were born.
Oh,
so it's
you're
like
hearing
all the little tweets and the chirps. So there's just something. It's a different noise.
Yeah, you can hear the rustling of the leaves, the different animals. Just all those little things that you miss when you're inside those 4 walls.
Yeah, so it's what you're getting away from, especially with technology, but then again, what you're adding to with the nature, and those sounds are just very, very calming and connecting. So.
Yeah, and actually that's one of the points that I want to talk about, which there really is just a calming presence of green space, and it actually can reduce cortisol levels. And, we talk about this a lot, which are in our stress podcast, but we live in this sort of chronic state of stress now where we're in these chronically high cortisol levels, which you don't want. Your cortisol should naturally increase and decrease throughout the day.
So what does that look like? So what should it do? What's a normal, healthy, range of cortisol levels?
Yeah, but in very simple terms, but basically your cortisol starts to spike, before you wake up. So So, about an hour or two before you actually get up, your cortisol is going to start to rise. It's a natural process. It's what actually allows you to get up out of bed. So those mornings, those glorious mornings where you don't have to wake up to an alarm and you just naturally wake up, that's the act of the cortisol doing that.
Which we've talked about on another podcast in terms of the importance of that scheduling. You're as close as possible going to bed and waking up. I think actually that was one of our last podcasts.
Yeah, it was our sleep one.
Yeah. So the importance of getting into the habit of going to bed around the same time and waking up around the same time, because then again that body starts to elevate that rhythm, starts to elevate that cholesterol at the same time every day, and then you start to get into that rhythm. And again, if you habitually do that for a while, a lot of times your body just wakes up on its own without an alarm.
Yep. And one of the big things that regulates that is the day-night cycle. So that's why if you find yourself having a harder time getting up in the winter months, that's why. It's because that we have a shorter day. So if you're getting up at the same time, it's a lot harder. Like I noticed this time of year, I'm up before my alarm goes off because it's already light outside, versus the winter, I'm sitting there snooze. Nope,
not doing it.
I'm like, the sun's not up. I can't do it. Can't do it. I always say I should have been a farmer because I am up with the sun and then I'm down with the sun. So it's, I'm very dependent on that daylight. And so and that's that natural cycle. So you're up, then you're going to kind of have those spike throughout the day. And then again, as the daylight starts to shift, you're going to get a drop in cortisol, increase in melatonin, and that's going to shift you from that. Cortisol makes you very awake and alert, which is great during the day. And then you're going to get that shift where melatonin increases, which helps you feel relaxed and at ease, which is perfect to lead right into nighttime, and then helps promote good, healthy sleep. So that's what you want. But when we're in this chronic state of stress, chronic state of sleep deprivation, chronic state of just unhealthiness that we get this sort of constant high levels of cortisol, which is why we have trouble sleeping, why we have a lot of other issues. So one of the best things, honestly, for that is, the whole sleep podcast we talked about, having good sleep, but then again, getting outside and away from the technology and really exposing yourself to that natural day cycle as much as possible. So getting natural light first thing in the morning, ideally outside, but even if it's, standing in front, opening all your blinds and, exposing yourself to that daylight, that's one of the best things that you can do. And then again, we talk about a lot in the sleep podcast, limiting that artificial light at night. So again, as much as you can really rely on the natural light cycle, which is why we see people that do like shift work have a lot of health issues, a lot of sleep issues, because again, they are truly fighting that, they have to be up all night and then sleep during the day. So they're constantly fighting that natural cycle. And, there's not really a great way around that. Unfortunately, it's just, that's the nature of their jobs and they have to power through. But if that's not the case for you, the most closely you can follow that natural daylight cycle, and getting outside is one of the best ways to do that. Early morning, again, if you can sit outside and have your coffee, go for a walk, expose yourself to that natural daylight first thing in the morning is really beneficial.
Yeah, especially now that the temperature is also nice too. It's nice to sit out on a nice cool morning.
Yeah, today was perfect. It was that brisk walk outside. Whoo, okay, yep, I'm up, I'm ready.
Don't want to do that when it's 28 degrees outside.
But and that's great because a lot of people are still working from home, so that you don't even have that morning commute. Your commute might be going from your bedroom to your office. So again, depending on your window situation, you might not be getting exposed to a lot of light. So for that, you might, again, need to be more mindful about making sure you're getting outside and sort of getting that quote unquote commute time where you do actually get some fresh air and get some daylight first thing in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, so just going back to what we that point about the relaxation and connecting, so that obviously the light, but then the relaxing sounds that we talked about. Mm-hmm. So is there anything that we can do to help to stimulate, whether it's artificially or actually getting outside? Because again, I as much as I would love to wake up to the sound of the ocean, right outside my bedroom window, that's not happening unless I move to the beach. So
Yeah, again, that's why you hear, you see a lot with meditation and things, and even, different deep breathing, relaxation, podcasts, things like that, you'll see a lot of, or hear a lot of imagery with nature. So they'll talk about picturing the beach, or, picturing the sound of the waves, picturing the sound of running water. It's not by mistake. Those things have that really relaxing effect. So yeah, if you can't actually do it, finding, again, it's a great thing with podcasts, same as where our podcast stream, you can look for, relaxing, relaxing meditation. You can even search specifically nature meditation and just find those sounds, and you can have that going in the background while you're working, or, while you're trying to fall asleep, whenever you're kind of looking for that time that just sort of have that nice relaxation. Even right now, as we're recording this, I can keep hearing the birds, and it's just, and it just has that, it's just a very calming and relaxing.
Yeah, it's much nicer to listen because, again, there's no threat, there's no alarm to it. It's like that's the natural, normal environment sounds of being outside. It's not a truck that's coming barreling down the road and like laying on its horn because it's about to hit something, or going too fast. So it's like that would be an alarm, and again, that's that heightened sense of of alert, of fight or flight response, which elevates your stress level, and and then again, you get too many of those throughout the day. Your computer was even dinging right before we.
I know. I was like, "What is the darn dinging?" Yeah. It was irritating.
So we had to turn that off so that it wouldn't come through the podcast. But yeah, that dinging, it's just like that. It's just a little irritation, that constantly puts you into that level of stress.
Yeah, and if we think about all of those that we're surrounded by all day long, the dinging, the vibrating, the humming of all the technique. Yeah, we walked in, you're like, "What's that sound?" It was the ice maker.
Yeah, the ice maker. I had to turn the ice maker off.
Yeah, so it's just, all of these little sounds that add up over the day. And not only is it the sounds, but, another point that we want to talk about was all of those technologies, they put out frequencies. Our technology, it runs on these frequencies, and so does our body, which we talk about a lot. And all these frequencies start to add up, and we start to get this very positive charge in our body, which sounds like a good thing. Positive sounds good, right? But this overly heightened positive charge, and we're talking about electrical charge, is positive and negative. Just like with your battery, you have to line up the positive end and negative end. Yeah,
well, that's literally, if you look at, and actually, if you go back to, if anyone studied, anatomy, physiology, and you go back to membrane potential, which is the very, very minor electrical charge gradient that's set up across the membrane of the cell, especially, the nervous system. That is how messages are literally sent. So that gradient must be maintained around a very, very narrow margin. And if it's not, then you get, significant disruption in cellular communication. So that charge is very, very closely monitored, inside the body. So, when we look at that charge, what can we do to just help keep ourselves grounded? It's talking about, with keeping a good, healthy charge, and it's really grounding is about reestablishing the homeostatic charge, of what it is to being on the Earth and the planet Earth, and so even the Earth has a frequency or a charge to it. In fact, if you look at lightning strikes there's lightning strikes that happen all over the world every single day. Might not happen specifically in your area, but on average, how many lightning strikes there are across the world? Between 8 and 9 million lightning strikes.
Wow.
Every day. Okay. Wow. And again, that happens because that is literally the Earth's atmosphere grounding itself. And so there is a connection that we have whenever we are actually touching the Earth. And yes, we're touching the Earth, inside here, but when you're actually touching, the Earth and nature, yes,
ground,
yes.
So not shoes, not concrete, but your feet. So I always say walking on the beach is
Yes.
the perfect example. That amazing calming feeling you have with your sand and toe, your toes in the sand and maybe the water hitting
What's
it.
that country song?
That's
Ass in the sand.
Toes in the
feet in the surf, ass in the sand, something like that.
But yeah, I mean, it truly is that calming. And same thing, if you can walk around, kids have it right. Kids, if you didn't tell them to put shoes on, they just go running out in their bare feet. And, and that's really how it should be, because that connection to the ground, the earth has a slightly negative charge. So it helps counter this, increased positive charge that we're getting from all of this increased technology. And it truly does ground us the same way that you ground you have a grounding wire when you're doing, setting up electricity, so that it doesn't, you don't blow
stuff out,
blow circuits. Yeah. Well, it's sort of the same thing with our bodies. We need that grounding to reconnect. And there's there's devices that do it. There's mats and technologies that can help.
Yeah, there's mats and there's things that you can wear around your wrist, even around your neck now, and again, even different different stones or metals have been shown to help keep your body's charge at a at its a normal healthy level. But
all that's trying to do is essentially mimic what the earth can do.
and it's never going to work as efficiently as just getting out and walking around in nature. So whether we're walking around in the grass, again, you mentioned this time of year, it's so much easier. When you live in a state that has four seasons, it's very difficult to go walk around bare feet when it's 20 degrees outside.
Probably wouldn't advise that if you want to keep all your toes.
Yes, if you want to keep your toes. But I mean this idea, walking in a creek, I love creek walking.
I love that.
We got a beautiful one right outside of our office that we're looking at right now, and it's like, it's so soothing to be able to walk up and down in the water. You hit, maybe you're stepping on a rock, or you're, stepping down in the sand. You got the rushing water past your feet. Like, it's just very, very calming. One
of my favorite places to hike local is, I go and do my hike, a couple miles, and then I finish out. There's a little creek, and I always take my shoes off and sit there and with my feet in the water and read a book or just sit and listen. There's little waterfalls. Just watch the water, listen to the water. There's just something about that connection that's really nice, really calming.
Yeah. So, and again, if you've got a family with young kids, it's like they love to play in the water. We're
kids would live in the creek back there.
It's funny because it's like we have an entire consumerism, driven around entertaining children, and the amount of money that we spend on things and stuff. Actually, I just saw a meme recently. It was funny. It was around a cat. It's like these are all the cat toys that I send that one to. It's like here's all the things that I buy for my cat to to keep it entertained because I think it's going to enjoy it. And then it had another picture of all the things that it actually entertains the cat, and it's like free things around your house. The plastic bag or
wine corks.
The toilet paper rolls.
Oh yeah.
And it's the same thing with children. It's
they're more excited about the box than
our kids, we got a big trampoline out back in our yard, and they love the trampoline, don't get me wrong, but it's like, half the time, they'll be on the trampoline for a little bit, and then it's like, where'd they go? Well, they like went down in the woods in the back of our house, and they're, you can hear them from the deck, but you can't see them anymore, and they're like tramping through the weeds, and so it's just, it's funny to see, but we don't need all of this stuff. It's like nature has provided everything that you can need, walking through the outdoors and being connected.
Truly.
So you talked about the light, so you've got the light we talked about with, which stimulates, your sense of sight. And then you've got the sounds that we talked about, and just, those relaxing sounds from birds and rustling with the wind and
then the actual physical connection.
Yeah. And then you have the kinesthetic connection, right? That sense of touch. And again, it's like, these are all things that, now we know scientifically why it happens, but it's stuff that, our ancestors have been doing for thousands of years. Yeah. So it's like we're just trying to kind of reestablish what we've known innately for thousands of years.
Yeah, I would say then, the next component to being outside, which is something we very much have to be thankful for when we have around here, which is sunlight and the benefits. Because everything we just talked about, that's regardless if it's even if it's a rainy day, all of those things are going to apply. But the sunlight itself has so many benefits also. And again, around here, it's such a rarity.
I know, because the southwestern PA region is like one of the grayest.
Yeah, next to Seattle, I think we're
one of the grayest in the nation. So, which I always say that, it makes us appreciate the sun far more than if you live in, a place that it's, like Florida, where it's the sun's out all the time.
Yes. So, but yeah, I'd say probably the two big things with the sun is one with vitamin D, and again,
that's a whole other podcast, right?
Yeah, that's a whole one. But in brief, essentially, vitamin D is something that your body creates. It is a natural process. When the sunlight hits your skin, your body converts cholesterol into vitamin D. So it is something that's very natural and can be done. Unfortunately, around here, it's something that, pretty much everybody in the Pittsburgh area is vitamin D deficient most of the year because, again, we don't get enough sun and then we don't get out enough when we do. So,
and really and even if you are in a place that has more sunshine and you don't have the overcast days like we have, it comes down to the angle of the sun because we're further from the equator that we don't get as much. We just don't get as much vitamin D. But again, if you look at our ancestors and what they did, they consumed significant amount of animal meats and fats. You go as far north as like the Canadian region and above, and you have like the native population there would consume massive amounts of whale and seal blubber, and it's like they're getting a lot of nutrients and vitamins from those sources that that's just stuff that we don't consume today. So getting out and getting that sunshine when it's here, massively important.
Yep.
And we're going to do a whole nother podcast on sunscreen. But again, we'll get into that.
So vitamin D is a big one that people think about. And then also the sun, if you ever notice, again, but you talk about that mood, you feel calmer when you're outside, but it also kind of energizes you to an extent and you feel happier and better. And that, again, it's not just because the sun's happy to look at. Actually, when the sun hits your retinas, it actually increases serotonin. So I'm sure we've talked about this before, but serotonin is that feel-good transmitter. It's that happy one.
Hormones.
The happy hormone is the very simplified way to put it. And it tends to be, in most cases of depression, it's a low levels of serotonin, either because they're not being produced or they're not being received the correct way. So seasonal depression, this is why we see a lot of that in the winter months. Again, around here we had just had these very gray, we had a wonderful winter this past. We actually saw the sun a lot this past winter. I think we saw the sun more in
March
the winter. Honestly. But so that sun actually triggers those serotonin levels and increases them. So that's a lot of the reason why, if you feel yourself kind of having that drop in mood and energy during the darker, colder, grayer months, that's part of it. Not saying that that's the only reason, but it is a big, big part of it. So again, getting out and getting out without sunglasses. I'm not saying don't go stare at the sun. Like that, again, not what we're saying, but being outside in that natural state. So without the sunglasses, so that you can get that direct sun exposure to the retinas is just, and again, you don't have to,
don't stare directly at the sun.
That's what I'm saying. Don't stare directly at the sun. If you're driving and you can't see, wear your sunglasses. But again, we're just talking about, being out and kind of getting that natural exposure really helps with those serotonin levels.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's a big difference. If you're walking under you're hiking and you're under the canopy of the trees, it's like you're getting a lot of natural sunlight that comes in. You don't have to wear your sunglasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, if you're out on the beach in the middle of the day, you might need your sunglasses because
it's the reflection of the water. Yeah, all that. Yeah, exactly. But if you're just kind of, like you said, just out at the park with the kids, kids, if it's not, if the sun's not directly in your eyes, just, let yourself have that, even 10-15 minutes of, uninhibited sun exposure can really help your body with all of these natural things. So
obviously the sun also helps with serotonin levels, which you just mentioned, but what else helps with serotonin levels?
A lot of things. What are you getting out of exercise?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So physical activity was the other, huge advantage. And, we were going to start off with this, but we just jumped right into relaxation. But yeah, the physical activity, and it's not exercise, right? And you talk about this a lot, with your patients, in terms of there's a difference between like active, high intensity exercise and just activity.
Yes.
And so much of what we do outside, gardening is a very active, thing, weeding and digging
mowing,
and mowing. And, so push mowing, not riding on a lawn.
Yeah, well, not what you do here. You're just having a good time when But you're still getting the sun exposure.
Exactly,
yeah, you're still getting some of the benefits.
Exactly. So, but yeah, the amount of activity that you get, you tend to be more active when you're outside more regularly, just because you're up walking around and, again, maybe you're biking, you're kayaking, you're hiking, you're swimming.
Chasing the kids around the playground.
Yeah. So it's like just the amount of activity that just comes naturally with being outside.
Yeah.
It is extremely beneficial.
And again, it brings back that... Again, because we talked about, I think people are pretty good about getting exercise.
Yep.
It's, maybe not as much as they should, but again, that's something that people can schedule. So, okay, I'm going to get to the gym for, my 30 to 60 minutes. Yeah. And they can do that. And they're, that's easier to kind of fit into a day. But when we talk about how much physical activity we've lost because all of these things that used to be active things have now become technology have made very easy. Again, we drive instead of walk. We have kitchen appliances that do things that used to be, manual labor, cutting, laundry. Chopping. Laundry used to be more I still say that's manual labor. That's up and down 3 flights of stairs. But all of these things that used to be active things have become much more passive things. So again, if we get outside, it just, that movement that we lose so much of because of technology, we can kind of artificially reinstate back in. And again, kids love doing this stuff. So doing it together as a family, or with friends, using this time of year, if you're getting together with friends, get somewhere that you could go for a walk or go for a hike or go play pickleball. Pickleball's the new thing.
That's the new thing.
It's super fun.
I still have not played.
It is really fun. But get together and do something active and fun and then go have a drink as opposed to just meeting for happy hour. And so just again taking advantage of the fact that we really truly don't have that many nice months this time of or this in this area, so taking advantage of the time of year that we do and using that time to be more active, get the fresh air, get the sunlight, get all of those things that, we really miss in the winter months. And, and again, I say 3 seasons, we can really take advantage of it if you're, if you're dedicated to it. And then, sometimes during the winter months, you just, we can only do so much. Listen to your body, sleep a little more, enjoy the recovery time. But,
bears hibernate in the winter time,
but that's essentially, again, there's the physical benefits from the physical activity. And then, like we said, from all of those other health benefits that come from being outside. Again, whether it's sunny or not, you're going to get that. You're going to get all of those health benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's why you mentioned the sun a couple times, and whether it's out or not. Well, we've all been to the pool on a cloudy day.
And that's the day you get burned.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't need as much sunscreen, or you just don't think about it, and you
don't think about reapplying.
And it's like, oh shoot, you're actually out. You actually have a burn at the end of the day.
Yeah, especially if you're by water. core.
Yeah, because it still comes through. But all of these things we mentioned in terms of the activity and just, the grounding and the relaxation, all of those also then lead to, another amazing benefit from being outdoors is the sleep, and again, we just did a whole podcast on this, so you can go check that one out as well. And I think we talk about just being outdoors as one of them, but you're just, again, the regulation of your serotonin levels, the regulation of your circadian rhythm and the cortisol levels, like you're, and
then just being more active.
Well, and that's, and I always, and I think we talk about this a lot, is just, people who have trouble sleeping, wear your body out, it was meant to move. And it's like, if you sit and consume, 2,000 calories a day,
didn't do anything.
But you didn't do anything, your body's kind of agitated. It's just like, it's this toddler who has all this energy. It's like, sit them in school. That's why, again, a whole, kind of off topic here, but like when you have kids who, are meant to be active and move, but you put them in a classroom for 8 hours a day, and now all of a sudden, especially boys, just they're so fidgety, and it's like they must have ADHD, and so we got to get them on a medication. It's like, no,
let them go run around, let them
get them moving. I think our school, a lot of schools have done a better job, especially with the younger kids, to get them out as much as possible, extended recess time, and
walks through
gyms, but you're gonna improve your sleep. I always say this time of year with kids, it's like they sleep so much better because they're outside and they exhaust themselves in the sun. And it's great.
Yeah, think how tired you are after like a day at the pool. It's like, wow, I am exhausted.
Yeah, I am wiped. But again, it's a good exhaustion, and it's like, okay,
yes.
I've worked hard today, and we're gonna talk about that on another podcast, because we talk about like muscle soreness versus actual like pain, and achiness, and it's like the exhaustion we're talking about, and even if you're a little sore, from I was gardening or digging or mowing, I was doing work. It's like there's a big difference between just being sore and exhausted and lying down at the end of the day, and boom, you're out, and again you hit that healthy sleep cycle. Versus like, oh shoot, something's actually wrong. But yeah, that's a whole other podcast. But yeah, improving your sleep just by being outside, it does. It makes it has a big impact.
Yep. And as we talk about in that sleep podcast, good quality sleep is then essential for everything else. So again, it becomes that cycle. You're either going to fall into a cycle of sickness, or you're going to get into that cycle of health, because it all eventually just continues to play off each other. So if you sleep well, you have the energy the next day to get out and do it all over again. So it just becomes, that health perpetuating. But yeah, so that's we got a beautiful day to record this one too. So
yeah, I thought about that. I'm like, I wish we could record this outside. I know. Back deck. I didn't bring a laptop, but anyway, get outside. Mom says get outside. Thank you all for joining us for our What the Health podcast. As always, if anything resonates with you, you can check out more information at Turo, Turo, familychiropractic.com. We have a ton of other resources on there where you can give our office a call and talk with us directly. So with that being said, I am Dr. Dan with
Angela. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next time.
See you soon.
You've been listening to What the Health with Dr. Dan and Angela Toro, brought to you by Toro Family Chiropractic. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.whatthehealth.world.